Hi, I'm Sam Butcher, the owner and founder of Butcher Elder Law. The topic I'd like to address with you in this video is how to protect your assets, your life savings, from the nursing home and long-term care costs. When we sit down to meet with people for the first time, many of those who come to see us are asking that very question. Why is that? Because probably the single biggest risk to your lifetime accumulation of wealth is the possibility that you're going to wind up needing the nursing home or long-term care. According to a study referenced by AARP, 70% of Americans over age 65 will likely need long-term care sometime before they die. So, the real issue, if your health fails, is who is going to pay for that care? There are basically three choices. The first is open your wallet and pay privately for the cost of long-term care at a cost of, on average in our area, $8,000 a month. I've had clients who have paid slightly less than that, and I've had clients who have paid several $1,000s more than that, depending on their individual needs and the venue that they choose for their long-term care. What other choices are there besides private pay? Well, the next choice is long-term care insurance, and we recommend that all of our clients who are still conceivably eligible for long-term care insurance look into that option. The problem is that many people wait too long. They wait until it's too late, and either they don't qualify for long-term care because no insurer is willing to write them a policy, or alternatively, the cost is prohibitive because they're too old when they apply. Well, the third choice is the government. And when it comes to the government, there are basically two options. The first, which is limited to wartime veterans and the spouses of deceased wartime veterans, is the VA Improved Pension with Aid and Attendance. This is a benefit that's not widely known, and it's an awesome benefit. Why is that? Because if you qualify for this benefit, it can provide a wartime veteran with a dependent spouse over $25,000 a year to help pay for care in the home or in a long-term care facility if the veteran requires assistance with at least two or more of the activities of daily living. Now, what other requirements are there for this benefit? To begin with, the veteran must have served during a wartime period, and we are certified by the Veterans Administration to represent these individuals in pursuit of these benefits, and we have the exact dates that the VA considers to be the wartime periods for World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf War. The veteran must have served for at least 90 days, one day of which must have been during a wartime period. Next, the veteran must have been other than dishonorably discharged. So, obviously an honorable discharge or a medical discharge or general discharge will still suffice to help the veteran qualify for this benefit. And you may have heard me mention, and I think it's worth mentioning a second time, that one of the nice features of this benefit is it can help people remain in their own home. It pays for home caregivers. It can even pay for family members who are caregivers living in the home with the veteran who needs assistance. So, what about the spouse of a deceased wartime veteran? Spouses of deceased wartime veterans are also eligible for a benefit that pays currently $1,149 a month. So that's slightly in excess of $13,000 a year. And while that benefit isn't as rich as the benefit that's provided to a veteran, it still can help pay for a lot of in-home care for the spouse of a deceased wartime veteran who desperately wants to remain at home. If that spouse or if the veteran winds up needing care in an assisted living facility, this benefit can also be applied to help pay for assisted living. What if you're not a veteran or the spouse of a deceased wartime veteran? What other government options are available? Well, Medicaid. Medicaid, however, is based on need. Therefore, in order to qualify for Medicaid, you have to meet the standards of Medicaid eligibility. There are a lot of myths when it comes to Medicaid, and probably the three most prominent myths are these. They can take your home, you have to give your assets away to protect them, and you have to wait 60 months, 5 years, in order to qualify for Medicaid. Well, there may be a grain of truth somewhere in all of that, but these myths are largely the result of what we refer to as barbershop coffee shop. People pick up a little bit of information, when they go to the barbershop, they come home, they share it with their spouse, she goes to the coffee shop, she has a discussion with her friends, she shares a little bit of this information, they share a little bit of the information that they've accumulated, and the next thing you know, people think that they know the law. And maybe they do know some of the law, but the danger is always in what they don't know. Our goal at Butcher Elder Law is to prevent mistakes and preserve assets. So let's talk about that first myth. They can take your home. Well, in the case of a couple where one has found it impossible to remain at home and needs nursing home care, the spouse still living at home in the community is protected, and the home is not going to be taken away from that spouse, and the nursing home spouse, the Medicaid applicant, can still qualify for Medicaid without having to give up the home. What if you're single and you need nursing home care? The house is still protected for 13 months. The government recognizes that maybe as the result of nursing home care, the patient will improve. Their condition will improve, they'll be able to return home, and they need to have a home to return to, in which case the home is protected. However, if after 13 months the Medicaid applicant is unable to return home, then the house is going to have to be put up for sale, and the proceeds from the sale of the house are going to have to be used to pay back Medicaid or pay going forward until Medicaid will be willing to continue to provide coverage of the nursing home expense. What about myth number 2? You have to give your assets away to protect them. You know what we call this? We call this losing control. Nobody ever wants to lose control, but we see people every day in our office who have lost this. Why did they lose it? Because they failed to plan when they could plan. And so, do you have to give your assets away to protect them? No. You can take advantage of a whole new genre of trusts, asset protection trusts, that allow you to remain in control of your assets, manage your assets, and even retain the power to benefit your loved ones with the assets that you place in your asset protection trust, and still qualify for Medicaid if you follow the rules of asset protection along with the rules for Medicaid eligibility. So we help many of our clients to protect assets and still become eligible for Medicaid just by knowing what the rules are and the strategies that are available to us to help our clients. We think that it's such a shame when the people who have been members of what is referred to as the greatest generation die poor, and we can prevent that from happening. What about the third myth, that you have to wait 60 months in order to qualify for the Medicaid to pay for the nursing home? Well, 60 months is the look-back period. It is not the period of restricted coverage. So if you're applying for Medicaid eligibility, it is true that the government can look back 60 months to see what transfers of assets you have made, and then consider as to each transfer whether those transfers were compensated or uncompensated. So if you spent $7,500 to put a new roof on your home, that's a compensated transfer. If you put in new flooring or landscaping or took a cruise, those are perfectly acceptable expenses. The government is never going to disallow you from spending money on yourself or your property. But if you've gifted your assets, then the government is going to make the presumption that assets gifted within the last 5 years were gifted in order to qualify you for Medicaid eligibility. And when that happens, Medicaid will calculate a restricted coverage period. And they have a formula for doing so, and it's based on the amount of transfers, but it doesn't mean that the restricted coverage period is going to be 60 months. Oftentimes, we find that the restricted coverage period is just a few months, or a year and a half, or 2 years, but certainly not 5 years. What's the number for you? I don't know until you share information with me, and then I can tell you what the restricted coverage period would be for you if you wind up needing long-term care before 60 months from any transfers has passed. Once you are beyond those 60 months, all transfers then are off the radar and will not result in any restricted coverage period when it comes to qualifying for Medicaid to pay for the nursing home. So what should you do? You should plan when you can. When a crisis occurs, you've got one foot in the nursing home door, or your spouse does, or they've already been admitted to the nursing home and it doesn't appear that they're going to be able to return home, we can still protect 40 to 60% of your accumulated wealth, or the accumulated wealth of the nursing home resident. But we can't protect it all because you've waited too late, they've waited too late to plan. When you come and see us and we can plan ahead, we can protect all of your life savings and still enable you to qualify for Medicaid benefits to pay for the cost of nursing home care if your health fails and you wind up needing that care. And we can do that without you having to lose control of your assets or the ability to use those assets and apply them to benefit your loved ones. Many people make the mistake of transferring their home to their adult children or other loved ones, thinking that they've done something wise to protect their home, when in fact they have made a serious mistake that is likely to cost them Medicaid eligibility or delay Medicaid eligibility, because the home would have been exempt for their husband or for themselves for 13 months. And so again, it's that 20% of the law that people don't know that can sometimes create problems. Everyone's circumstances are unique. If you'd like to know more about what you can do to protect your assets in the event your health fails and you wind up needing long-term care, give us a call. We'll be happy to go through the options that apply to you. Thank you.